Games Workshop is going to ruin your Tyranid lore. Now, before you guys start claiming that this is clickbait, let me explain what's going on and then you guys can decide for yourselves. This morning, Games Workshop, or at least Warhammer TV, put out a video explaining that we're going to get a new Blackstone Fortress model. This new model is the intelligent alien species known as the Zoat. For all those that don't know, the Zoat is an alien species that was connected to the Tyranid lore back during Rogue Trader and the first editions of Warhammer 40k. What made these guys so special was that they were the diplomats of the Tyranids. When the Tyranids invaded the Milky Way galaxy, they came across a race that basically looked like the dragon ogres from Age of Sigmar, but instead of having the top half an ogre, it was like a lizard thing with a weird mouth. What made this species so special was that it was able to adapt to the social cues of other aliens and able to communicate a whole lot better. It made them very, very charismatic because they were able to pick up on those social cues, something that we as wargamers probably need to work on a little bit. But anyways, the Tyranids use these guys to communicate with the Imperium. Why the Imperium would find it easier to talk to the Zoats, a six-limbed lizard centaur creature, and not the Tyranids doesn't really make sense. The lore gets a little fuzzy, and as new editions came out, the lore of the Zoats kind of went away. Now, they still exist within the Warhammer 40k universe, they're just different. So if you connect them to the Tyranids, it is stated that the Tyranid hive mind saw that these guys were not an effective force and really stopped using them. So they were first seen when the first Tyranid hive fleet invaded the Imperium, but after that they kind of went away, which kind of makes sense. It's hard to be an alien species and try to convince a planet to allow the Tyranids to consume you just because. Now, I also think that the Zoat role within the Tyranids was replaced by the Gene Stealer cult because it's easier to imagine a Gene Stealer cult using subversion, cult mentality, and psychic abilities to convince a planet to be consumed by the Tyranids rather than a diplomat trying to talk to a planetary governor and all that jazz. Now, with the reintroduction of this species, if it is still connected to the Tyranids, it does something to the Tyranid lore that we've seen in the past for other factions, specifically the Necron faction. Back in the day, the Necron lore or the Necron faction itself was just a mindless swarm of zombie robots that would consume anything once the Tomb World was awakened. Once like 6th or 7th edition came out, the lore changed a little bit. Now, when a Tomb World would awaken, it would have a Necron lord who was able to basically use diplomacy with whatever species was on that planet. It didn't necessarily mean that once the Tomb World was awakened, it would eradicate anything on the planet. There could be room for alliances, there could be room for different diplomatic abilities, which did something awesome for the Necron players. They didn't just have to play the silver tide of robot zombies anymore. It could actually be effective in like a narrative campaign, or if somebody was trying to write a book, they can use Trazyn the Infinite, they can use like a Necron Lord because he had the ability to think for himself. He wasn't connected to the protocol like back in the day. And you see that within the Tyranids. When a hive mind invades a planet, it's just a hive mind. There's no talking head. There is no option to talk to the enemy whatsoever. When the hive fleet invades, it's just going to consume everything. Even when you're talking about Gene Stealer cults, the Gene Stealer cult is never going to stop itself and try to negotiate with the orcs, try to negotiate with the Imperium. Once the hive fleet arrives, the hive fleet arrives. But now with the reintroduction of the Zoat, it gives the Tyranids the makeover that the Necron saw. Now they're going to have a talking head that is able to communicate with whatever foe they have in front of them. Which is awesome for those people who want to play the Tyranid faction by themselves, no Gene Stealer cult, and also want to have the ability to diplomatically communicate with your foe, like in a narrative campaign or something. But what it does is it fundamentally changes the Tyranids from the mindless, animalistic apex predator that consumes everything in its path to now something that can talk to you and act as a conduit to the hive mind. Now, if it is the conduit to the hive mind, any Xeno species is going to ask the Tyranids one question: why are you here? And that answer is going to have the power to fundamentally change the Tyranids. It's going to get rid of the mystery, and it also humanizes a creature that's supposed to be the purest form of an apex predator, an animal that consumes everything in its path. It doesn't ask why or how, it just does. Which kind of, for me, ruins the Tyranid lore. What do you guys think? This is the part of the video where I pass it over to you guys. Comment down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of the Zoat species. Should it even be connected to the Tyranids anymore? If they have a conduit to the hive mind, does that make the Tyranids less cool? If we get some of their mystery revealed, what would ruin the Tyranid lore for you? Can't wait to hear from you guys. And if you enjoy these types of free-flowing talking videos, let me know by hitting the thumbs up button. I'll talk to you guys in the comment section. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.